sequence number 1. All right, okay, so again, modified boxing stance. Feet shoulder width apart. We're going to take our right foot, if you're right-handed, and place that in the rear. If you're left-handed, we do everything the opposite, okay? Again, the situation that we want to avoid when we're trying to figure out the width of our stance is, for this situation, we want to try to prevent ourselves from being on one line, okay, with our heels. So we want to be a little bit more squared up, all right? So I'm right-handed, my right foot's in the rear. Now, the toes of the lead foot are going to face directly forward towards our target. The toes of the rear foot are going to face towards the corner. Front foot will remain flat. Back foot will be up on the ball of the foot. We want to have a slight bend in both knees and our weight evenly distributed between our lead and our rear foot. From here, we're going to go ahead and take our right hand, or our rear hand rather. We're going to clench that fist, and we're going to glue the palm of our fist to our jawline with our elbow kind of hugging our rib cage. Our lead hand will rest just a few inches in front of the face, and from here we'll drop our chin 2 to 3 fingers into the chest, elevating the lead shoulder, tucking the abdomen, okay? From here, you want to make sure that your body is relaxed, okay? We want to try to remove any kind of tension from our body, okay? So you don't want to be getting tired just being in your stance, right? So you want to feel comfortable and balanced. So I'll kind of shift a little bit so you guys can see my stance from varying angles. Okay, now if you notice, Professor Bobby was starting at the distance that we should be at if we're in a situation where we have to protect ourselves. We're trying to avoid staying in anybody's immediate striking range, all right? So, keeping that in mind, he's going to have to close the distance if he wants to land that haymaker punch, okay? So he's going to use a little bit of basic footwork here. Step, slide, motion. So the leg that is positioned closest to the direction that we're moving towards is the leg that initiates. So for example, I'm in a left lead. Let's say that my desire is to move forward. Well, since my left foot is closest towards that direction, I'm going to take a small step forward with the left foot and then slide the rear foot up. So I'll step and then slide, step and then slide. Take notice that I'm not taking too large of a step, okay? So you kind of see how much ground I'm covering with each step, all right? Now, if my goal is to move to the rear, my rear leg is closest towards that direction. I'll initiate with the rear leg and then slide the lead leg back. So step, and then slide, step, and then slide. If I want to move laterally, let's say starting to the left, I initiate with the left, slide over with the right. If my goal is to slide to the right, I start with the right foot, then the left foot follows, okay? So the drill that we're going to have you guys drill first is to move through all 4 directions. So for example, we're going to go advance, retreat, left, and then right. Advance, retreat, left, and then right. Now my goal when doing this basic drill is to make sure that I don't get my stance in a position where I'm off balance, right? So I don't want to end up with my feet too close or too narrow, too wide. And again, a common mistake that usually occurs happens during the lateral motion, right? So people will initiate with the incorrect leg first, and if our legs are kind of crossed over like such, then that could leave us available to get knocked to our back. We kind of trip over ourselves, so we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that we stay standing, right? So again, with that movement drill, advance, retreat, left, and right. And as needed, I want you guys to go ahead and kind of pause from time to time, go over the checklist of the details in your head, make your correction, and then resume the drill. Okay, so again, advance, retreat, left, and right. Advance, retreat, left, and right. Okay, so I'll give you guys a few seconds to go ahead and do that on your own at home. So advance, retreat, left, and right. Advance, retreat, left, and right. All right, fantastic. Okay, so the next thing that was happening, if you notice, Professor Bobby was coming in with the haymaker. Okay, so the haymaker, that terminology is for a rear hand hook. Okay, in most boxing gyms, they do not teach the rear hand hook. Why? Well, it takes a longer, or it has to cover a longer distance basically to reach the target. So somebody that has excellent timing can kind of shut that down a little bit more so. But it is an excellent punch to throw. So if you have excellent setups, you know, and you land that shot, it can do a lot of damage, all right? But it's a rear hand hook. So we've got the stance, we've got the footwork, okay? Now, one of the other things that's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and need to break fall, okay? Because I was hitting the hip throw with Professor Bobby and he's hitting the ground. So let's assume, or not assume, but let's say that you guys do have a matted surface, you're able to go ahead and do a portion of the throws. Let's go ahead and let's outline that, all right? So he's not landing flat on his back. This is more of a side break fall, all right? So the positioning on the side break fall, let's say I was to fall into my left side, is the most important thing is I want to protect my head. So my head should be off the deck, my chin should be anchored tight towards my chest, okay? Now, my arm positioning, my bottom arm is going to be extended out away from the torso, basically at a 45-degree angle away from the hips. The top arm is going to be wrapped around the rib cage. The leg position is also important, okay? What we're trying to avoid is having the knees kind of knocked against one another, all right? So those legs should be apart. So you can see if there's a generous bend in both knees, the leg of the bottom, on the bottom is resting onto the mat, and the top leg, that knee is pointed up towards the sky, right? So this is our position. I'll move to several different angles so you can kind of see where I'm at, all right? Now a good drill to kind of get in the habit of your body instantly getting into this position is I basically just kind of like turn from side to side and I slap the mat. Okay? Now when I slap the mat, guys, I am slapping from the point of my elbow to the tip of my fingers. That does not mean that I'm landing like this. What that means is that's the surface that's slapping the floor, okay? Now, you know, you slap a hard enough surface, yeah, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna sting a bit, but there's a big difference between you absorbing that sting and, you know, dislocating your elbow, your shoulder, or breaking your bone, okay? So basically the purpose of the slap is to get us in this conscious effort to not post out with our hands, which tends to be kind of like how people react, right? So for instance, you know, you kind of trip over something, people want to break their fall with their hand. And that's what we're trying to get ourselves out of the habit of doing. That's why we slap, all right? So the drill is we're going from side to side. Paying attention to our head positioning, our arm positioning, as well as our leg positioning. All right, so now we kind of take it up a little bit more, and what's going to happen is I'm going to kind of rotate my hips towards the sky and fall onto my side. So it'll look a little bit like this. So I throw my legs up, and I fall and I hit. So at the same time my hips are hitting the floor, everything impacts the mat at the same time. See, at the slap, everything happens all one time. So I go from side to side again. So lift, I fall. I lift, I fall. I lift, and fall. All right? Now, so we've kind of broke down how we should hit the floor. Now let's take this all the way from standing, all right? So side break falls, in my experience, are usually the most difficult for beginners to get at first, okay? But they are important because I think this is probably the way that most people fall, you know, when they're being on the receiving end of like a sweep or a takedown, all right? And so basically what I do, if I use these crosshairs in the mat, let's say I'm going to fall onto my right side, my right leg is going to swing diagonally out in front of my body. So it's almost like my right leg has been kicked out from underneath me. and my right arm is going to basically follow the identical track as my leg. So both my right arm and right leg swing out in front, okay? At the same time, I'm going to keep my chin tucked tight. My left arm will also be wrapped around my body. Next part of this is we're going to do a single leg squat, okay? So we swing and we start to squat. We swing and we start to squat. I'll do this from several different angles. We swing and we squat. We swing and we squat, okay? Now instead of falling back from this upright position, we want to try to collapse our torso as close to the ground as possible. The closer we get to the ground, the lesser the impact, okay? So I swing, swing and squat, and I sit all the way down and slap, all right? So at the same time my hip hits the deck, I'm slapping the floor. All right, so once again, swing, swing and squat, swing, squat, slap. Now in class, one of the things that I'll see is people will try to make this, try to dampen the impact even further. And they'll take this lead leg and they'll somehow kind of roll onto their knee, right? And we actually do not want that to happen whatsoever, okay? If you are doing this break fall on like a tile floor, you're doing it out in the parking lot, you have to protect your knees, okay? We have all this padding on our glutes. We want to, use that. So I'm sitting straight down on my bum. I am not falling onto my knee. So notice how my right knee does not touch the floor whatsoever. So take the time to kind of practice this on both sides. Remember, 3 steps: swing, squat, and slap. And if you notice, my body kind of rolls out to kind of displace the force, right? So all that force isn't landing on one particular area, all right? So go ahead and take a moment to go ahead and practice this on both sides of your body.